necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
Welcome to News Talk Online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand, on iTunes, and on YouTube, and also available on Gary's blog, www.garybaumgarten.com, where you are invited to comment whether you agree with Gary or not. Also, a big thanks to our friends at CRN Digital Radio, where we are syndicated coast to coast across the United States into more than 12 million households. I'm your guest host today, Alan Jaie. Gary has a personal situation and will be back on air as soon as possible. Our guest today is Pam Meister, editor of FamilySecurityMatters.org, which bills itself as the national security resource for American families. Pam Meister, a former radio broadcaster and recovering liberal, is also a frequent contributor to American Thinker and Pajamas Media, as well as her own blog, Blogmeister USA. Welcome to News Talk Online, Pam Meister.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, Pam. Pam, recently you wrote an article that I read on Pajamas called Teens Who Hate America, and that caught my eye, and, well, here you are. In your article, you seem to be putting a lot of blame on liberal values, and I guess what you perceive as the lack of those values in your piece. Can you explain to our audience what you were trying to this article?
Well, I have a daughter who's in high school. She's a sophomore. And one day she came home, she was, pretty, well, I wouldn't say upset, but she was just annoyed. She came home after hearing some of her classmates talking about how much they hate America. I asked her to elaborate why they hate America, and she couldn't really give me any, certain specifics at that time because she said, well, she really didn't want to be involved in that particular conversation, and so she didn't really retain the reasoning behind these students' comments. I wouldn't say so much that it's liberal values that I feel are to blame necessarily for students who say they hate America. It's the lack of balance of viewpoints that they seem to be receiving. If you're getting, and it doesn't matter which viewpoint you're talking about, if you're getting a particular viewpoint at home, and if that viewpoint, you're getting the exact same viewpoints everywhere else you go, at school, from the media that you listen to, etc., if you're not getting balancing viewpoints, you're going to have a one-sided worldview, and it could be liberal, it could be conservative. I happen to believe that it's the liberal viewpoint that gets the bigger share of the pie when it comes to school and such. And so these kids, if they're coming in, getting, fed, I shouldn't say fed, if they're receiving certain viewpoints at home, and this is the viewpoint that they're also receiving at school and elsewhere, then this is they're not going to be able to make necessarily balanced decisions, and they're not necessarily going to make balanced reasoning when they're taking a look at what's happening in the world. And that's why I wrote the article.
Okay, that's very interesting. But again, it just seems to me that, and again, and I'm not trying to take a position here, but you did seem to allude that it was more of these liberal values that are being taught in the education system today. Don't you believe schools should be a neutral playground?
Well, I do. I would say that schools are there to promote thought. You're supposed to be obviously learning about the basics: reading, writing, science, math, that sort of thing. And you wouldn't think that, politics of either sort would take place in classes like that. I spoke to my daughter again recently about these sorts of things, and I said, well, can you give me some more examples of things that are going on in school? Now, she's been taking Spanish. This is her 4th year of Spanish. And you wouldn't think that, learning Spanish could be a political playground. But she was describing a worksheet that the students had received. And the worksheet was about the subjunctive case, which is, I hope. And the subjunctive tense, I should say. And on the worksheet, there were a bunch of examples of people because the teacher was calling on students throughout the class to use these topics in a sentence. I hope, and then, you had to say the rest. She noticed that Obama was on the worksheet, Bush was on the worksheet, Iraq was also mentioned, and I believe Hillary Clinton. But she did notice that John McCain was missing on the worksheet. And when it came to her turn, she really didn't want to answer to any of those because she didn't feel that it was balanced, and she didn't feel that it was appropriate. But the teacher said, well, you have to pick from these. So eventually she just picked Obama, and she said, I hope Obama eats pizza. She made it silly. Afterward, the teacher did say to her, well, I didn't mean to make it, political, etc. But the fact that she's noticing that, the other, some of the, the Democrat candidates are being mentioned, and not the Republican candidate. She did notice that and thought it was a little unbalanced. And then she did tell me too that another student in the class, when it came to his turn, he said in Spanish, I hope Bush dies. Now, she said that most of the class burst out laughing, and the teacher did not. She gave a mild rebuke. She said, oh, now that's not nice. But she said the teacher was also kind of smirking and giggling along with the class. So, I don't care what your opinion is of whoever the sitting president is. You can like his policies or not, and that's fine. You don't